very good at it. And when you are good at it, you can do the same amount of work in less time, which gives you more time, or you can do more production in the same amount of time, which gives you more money. So efficiency is important. Next thing is it's more profitable. Again, you can do more work in the same amount of time when you develop that efficiency. So it's more profitable. It's easier to get referrals. When we are a specialist and we are perceived as an expert in the thing that we specialize in, it's easier to get referrals because it's less risky to a referrer to say, you should call on, or you should have Brad evaluate your insurance or evaluate your financial advice. A narrow focus makes you more credible, therefore it's easier to get referrals. It's less, it's good for our ego. What do I mean by this? I don't know about all of you, but there have been times in my career when people say no to me. I'm trying to help them with their planning and they don't want me to help them with their planning. And that can sometimes make us feel bad, hurts our feelings. When you are an expert in something, you feel very good about being an expert in something. And I would rather be an expert in one thing than being average in lots of things. So it's good for our ego. It's less risky. What do I mean by that? Well, when you're an expert on something, you're less likely to make a mistake. If you are selling 100 different products, you might not remember all the details that you need to know. And we live in an era of compliance and regulation. It is important to be an expert in what you're giving advice on, so it's less risky. And lastly, it's easy to brand. It's easier to brand a single focus. When you have too many areas that you claim to be an expert in, people won't believe that you're an expert in them. And when you have a narrow focus, it's much easier to brand that focus. Now, one of the challenges with having a narrow focus is that you need to be willing and able to make changes. So if you're doing 100 different things, and you're known for doing 100 different things, if you are doing these things, you don't need to make much of a change if you want to do these things, or these things, or these things. If you have a narrow focus, and you're right here, and you want to do something over there, but you're known for being right here, you have to actually make a conscious change, because people think you do this, not this. Okay? So that begs the question, when is it time for a change? When is it right to make a change in what we do? So there was a book by Paulo Coelho called The Alchemist. And in The Alchemist, they talk about heeding the signs, paying attention to the things that are going on in your life that are telling you it's time for a change. If you are sitting in your car dreading going up to the office, I would say that is a very good sign that it's time for a change. If you jump out of your car and run up the stairs to the office, I would say then you probably don't need to make a change. But take stock in how you're feeling about your business. Is it time for a change? So that's where we are so far. You've had the 7 benefits of having a narrow focus, a strategic specialization. And we've talked now about the need when you have a strategic specialization to be willing and able to make change and to recognize when it's time. Let's talk a little bit about a general practice just for a second. So most of us start out as generalists. We have to. The reason we have to is when you first start, you can't possibly know everything, and you can't possibly know a lot about any one thing. We all start out as generalists, and that way we have the best chance of surviving in the business. But one of the challenges with being a generalist is it's hard to elevate our practice to the next level. A second challenge with being a generalist is that it's hard to brand what's unique about being a generalist. Now, if I was a generalist, I would want to think of all the reasons why someone should do business with me. If you know what you're an expert in, that's great. But if you want your clients to know what you're an expert in, or your prospects to know what you're an expert in, then you need to be branded as an expert in those things. So if you were a generalist, how would you brand yourself as being unique? Well, you might say to a client, you should work with us because we know a little bit about a lot of things. And we can help you with every one of those things. Okay, that's a benefit of working with a generalist. You also could say, we will find the specialists for you. Work with us because we know the specialists. So when you need something over here, we'll find you the right one. When you need something over here, we'll find you the right person. So you can position yourself as being a unique generalist by talking about the benefits that you bring to your clients. That's how we would brand ourselves as a unique generalist. That said, the top end of the market typically prefers to work with specialists. How many of you consider yourself a specialist? Quick show of hands. Okay. So one of the challenges is that oftentimes we think of ourselves as specialists, but we don't present to the public as specialists. And the public can get confused about us because they don't understand what we specialize in. Let me give you an example. And I like to use analogies outside of our industry. I think it's easier to understand when we're looking outside of our business. Sometimes it's hard to see our own business and to understand the way a client would see it. But let's take a look at what I'm talking about. Let's say that I had a very fancy Mercedes-Benz, and I needed to take my Mercedes to the mechanic for service. Would I take my Mercedes to this mechanic? This mechanic claims to be the all-car specialist. The all-car specialist. They claim to be an expert in every car, every year, every make, every model. Do you believe that this company is actually an expert in everything? No. How could they possibly be? How could they even have the parts for every car and every make and every model made? It's crazy. So probably wouldn't take my Mercedes to this mechanic. What about this one? So we've got the Mercedes logo up there. We also have the BMW logo up there. Maybe they're a specialist. Maybe they're a German car specialist. Maybe they're a European car specialist. It's closer, but it's not exact yet. How about that one? What does that guy specialize in? Mercedes-Benz. If I brought my BMW to that dealership, would they service it? No, they would not. That's how you know you're a specialist. When you can say no to business because it's not in your lane. What does that look like in financial services? Does your website or your brochure that you hand clients look like this? I'm going to smile for a minute or two. I always get pictures where I've got my mouth open. I look like Jason on stage, the raptor face. So it's cool to get at least one where I'm smiling. Okay, so looking at this, what does a generalist look like? This person claims to have areas of expertise that include estate planning, special needs planning, business valuation planning, disability planning, business continuation planning, education planning, employee benefits, life insurance, financial planning, long-term care, and retirement planning. That's the all-car specialist. Does your website look like this? We oftentimes have the misconception that the more things we claim to do or claim to be an expert in, the more sales we will make. Do you have a better understanding of the way a client would see this now? You put that you're an expert in 100 things, guess what? You look like an expert in nothing. You just look like a person that's claiming to be an expert in 100 different things. This is not like fishing. Having more lines in the water doesn't equal more fish. So realize that you will sell more by being more credible, and you will be more credible by being an expert in a narrower focus. Now, having said that, sometimes people will ask, Brad, I am an expert in more than one thing. And I agree, we are all experts in more than one thing. But you have to ask yourself, are those things related? Are they close to one another? Investment planning and retirement planning. Okay, those are pretty close. You can brand those together. Disability insurance for business owners, life insurance for business owners. Easy to brand together. If you have two disparate specializations, it's very difficult to brand together. And in fact, to the extent that both brands coexist, clients will look at that and it will confuse them. Let me give you another analogy. I'm going to first give you the analogy that I used in Miami, and then I'm going to give you some other analogies that might resonate more with you and your cultures. I love sushi. Raise your hands if you love sushi. I love Texas barbecue. Everybody know what Texas barbecue is? Great big slab of meat with sauce and everything on it. Big hairy guy with a pitchfork that's pulling it off the barbecue. Fantastic. Texas barbecue, sushi. I love to go to sushi. I love to go to Texas barbecue. In a million years, I would not expect to find them in the same restaurant. I would be suspect of any restaurant claiming to do a good job with sushi and a good job with barbecue. I do not need my sushi and barbecue to come from the same place. I don't need my Chinese food to come from the same place as my Mexican food. I don't need to buy my tires where I buy my clothes. I want people that specialize in tires. I want people that specialize in clothes. I don't need them to be together. When you have two different specializations and you try to brand them together, you can create confusion in the mind of your prospects. What does sushi barbecue confusion look like in financial services? That's what it looks like. Look at me, I'm an expert in 17 different things. No, you're not. You're an expert in nothing. This guy does one thing, estate planning. Okay, that's credible. Is all this making sense? There is a place for generalists. I am not saying you shouldn't be a generalist, but when you want to elevate your practice, please consider becoming a specialist. All right, let's see where we are here. We all begin as generalists. I began as a generalist, and I began as a generalist at the age of 22. And before, some of you who saw the main platform speech yesterday, you know that my father is in the life insurance business. And my father gave me a little book when I graduated from college and was heading off to Europe, a book to put in my backpack. And it was written by a man named Joe Gandolfo. And there was a line in the book that says, anything will work if you do. I take that to mean all ideas work. You come to a meeting like this, there's 100 ideas. Guess what? They all work. They just don't all work for each of us. The key is finding the right idea for you. Let me give you an example. Many times we go to sessions based on the title. So I remember a TOT session once called How to Make $1 Million Working 3 months per year. Are you kidding me? Who doesn't want to make $1 million? Who doesn't want to work 3 months a year? I would have taken either. Great session, great speaker. Problem is that the speaker had $1 billion, with a B, $1 billion under management and 9 employees. I have a secret to share. I have $0 under management and 3 employees. Great speech, but I couldn't get there from where I was. I needed a session on how to be a financial planner. Or if I already was a financial planner, how to grow my assets to $1 billion. Or Or if I had $1 billion under management, I needed a session on how to better manage staff to work 3 months a year. Frankly, what I really needed was, what do we want to specialize in and why? And once we figure that out, how do we build a business around it? Well, MDRT allows us 8 words for speech titles. So sometimes those titles get pretty enticing. If I had to rename this speech with 24 words, it's right there. What do I want to specialize in and why? And then how do I build a business around it? So, Brad Ellman at age 22 came into the insurance business. I could not relate to being married. I could not relate to having a mortgage, and I could not relate to having children. I was quite possibly the worst prospect to sell life insurance on the planet. So instead of trying to sell life insurance, I found a different product that I could relate to: disability insurance. You see, I was an athlete in college and an athlete in high school, and I realized that I knew what it was like to be injured. And I could tell stories about being injured. That was easier for me than talking about life insurance. So for the first 5 or 6 years of my career, I really focused on disability insurance. And in fact, after becoming a product specialist, I got a phone call from a physician at a local hospital, the University Hospital near us. So then I became an expert on disability insurance and an expert on working with doctors. And after a while, and getting numbers of clients from that hospital, I became an expert on that particular facility and their benefits plans. It made me more effective, more credible. And the interesting thing about doctors is that doctors love to refer to specialists. Why? Because doctors refer to specialists all day long in what they do. So it became a very, very good niche, or a good specialization for us. I could relate to the product, I became an expert on the product, I became an expert on the profession, and I became an expert on this particular employer. Narrow, narrow, narrow. Everybody following me? Then I had a really interesting thing happen as it relates to this product. I got disabled. Now I know what you're thinking. First thing you're thinking is, there's no way that's him. This is me at 25. And even with the broken leg, admittedly, I look pretty good in that shot. So here's the thing. When people, and this is a little tidbit for all of you, do people work with disability products or products that have disability as a trigger for a claim? Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about claims. Everybody, when they think of themselves as disabled, they tend to think of themselves as inconvenienced only. Oh, look at Brad, he looks pretty good. I remember playing with my cousin's crutches once. It was pretty fun. I played on those crutches for 10 minutes, and my armpits started to hurt, so I put them down, and that was the extent of my crutch time, but it was super fun. Or, you know, I was at the hospital once visiting a friend, and I got in a wheelchair, and it was fun, and I zipped around the halls, and it was really cool, and then it was time to go, so then I got out of the wheelchair, walked down 8 flights of stairs, and then jogged to the car. People think of themselves as being inconvenienced. They don't think of themselves in the real light. There were 3 things that I learned about being disabled that most people don't think about. And I'll tell you the context in which we use those things. Clients will say to us, you know what, it'll take a lot to disable me. I say, you know what, Mr. Prospect, I used to think that too. And then I broke my leg playing soccer. And I used to think that it would take a lot to disable me too, but this is just a simple broken leg. I would never compare this to cancer. I would never compare this to a heart attack. This is just a simple broken leg. But I'm going to show you what's under that cast. It's a little gruesome. I know it's early in the morning. You guys want to see the x-ray of what's under that cast? You're a morbid group, aren't you? Okay, we're gonna do this in 2 steps. Ready? Nope. I can't even begin to tell you. Should I take it off? I'll show you again later. I can't, yeah. He's flapping his hands. Oh my gosh. I can't even begin to tell you how much that hurt. Every time I breathed, those bones shifted. I was in excruciating pain. You know what the most disabling thing was for me, though? I didn't sleep for almost a year. I'd sleep an hour a night, and then every time I moved, bones would shift and I'd wake up in extraordinary pain. Are you a very nice person when you're in pain? I couldn't do my job, not because of the cast or because of the broken leg. I couldn't do my job because I was sleep deprived, in horrific pain, or on pain medication. And the pain medication seemed like the right answer at first, but what I realized was that I couldn't advise my clients. I thought I was okay, and then I'd go to look at the notes that I took, and I'd find there were no notes. I thought I was doing things I wasn't doing. And I can tell you that none of your companies want you selling insurance on pain medication. And I was unable to sell insurance, sleep deprived, and in pain. A simple broken leg. So when a client tells you it would take a lot to disable me, I want you to fire back, you know, that's funny. I used to think that too until I met my friend Brad Elman at a conference. And he told us a story that was really, really interesting about breaking his leg. It wasn't the broken leg that disabled him. It was the pain, the sleep deprivation, and the pain medication that disabled him. Mr. Prospect, could you go to work after not having slept for 2 nights? About 3 nights, 4 nights, 5 nights, 1 week, 2 weeks. I mean, you can count that down as long as you want. Most disability policies in America start after 90 days. Well, it's a good thing that you can work with 3 months of sleep deprivation because the policy doesn't even start paying until the 91st day. That's just the way it is. So when you have had an experience with a claim, it puts you in a very different spot with a client to gently push back. I think so often we think about how do we handle a client's objections. You don't need to handle anything. You need to understand what our products do and how important they are and how they can change lives at claim time. What we do is we help people have peace of mind, and when they are struggling at the most difficult times of their lives, we bring them peace and security. Disability. So here's what I'd like you to do. Raise your hand if you've ever had a claim on any product. All right, some of you. So we've had about 300 disability claims in my career, personally in our office, and probably 36 life insurance claims as well. And it is unbelievable being part of that process, helping clients know that their families are going to be okay. In fact, while I was here, I got a text from one of my clients who's very, very sick. He sent me a picture of him and his wife and his 2 daughters at the college that the daughter will start at as a freshman. She just graduated from high school. He didn't think he was going to make it to Father's Day in America in June, and he never thought that he would get to see his daughter graduate from high school and go off to college. And I have been meeting with him now for the last 3 years initially, and then the last 6 months very, very specifically. And his planning is unbelievably good. Lots of insurance. His family is going to be okay financially. And our products make all the difference in the world. And it is such a privilege for us to be able to help people at the most difficult times in their lives. Claims matter. Claims is what we do. Delivering benefits is what we do. I never tell a client, and this is important, and these words may not mean the same in every language, but we don't sell insurance in my practice. We help clients buy it. Everybody loves to buy, but nobody loves to be sold. help your clients buy insurance. It's a simple mindset, but if you change your focus from selling to helping people buy, it will change everything for you. And when you realize what we do is bring peace of mind to people at the most difficult times of their lives, it will change how you approach what you're doing as well. So I want you to take a second, and if you have a claim or multiple claims, jot down the claim itself. Just a little note about it so you remember when you get back to your office. What product did it involve, and frankly, why did it matter to you? If you don't have a claim, you can do one of two things. You can make a quick note about my story, or you can think about the most senior agent in your office and make a note to ask them about their claims. When you get back to your offices, ask many agents if they've ever handled a claim and what happened. And what happened to them, the agent, as being part of that process. Claims is the business that we're in. And then what I want you to do is to take a moment and jot down your favorite product. What products do you like working with? What professions do you like working with? And lastly, do you have demonstrated expertise in those professions? And by demonstrated expertise, I mean, what do you have that's brandable? What can we do to say, do business with us because we're different than everybody else in a very competitive and very crowded space? Demonstrated expertise. I would expect that that area is probably the area that needs the most work. Okay? Favorite products, favorite professions, claim stories, and demonstrated expertise. And if you aren't able to jot these things down now, if you go into the MDRT Events app, you can get a copy of these slides. It's a PDF. You can work on this later. All right. We're going to pick the pace up a little bit. Everything I'm talking about is right here in this graphic. If you were a tennis player, anybody ever play tennis? Anybody ever see a tennis match? The sweet spot in the racket. Where can we hit the ball where we're getting the most power? The sweet spot in your practice is right there. That's your favorite products or planning, your claims or success stories, your established expertise, and your favorite professions. All come together. That is where you are most powerful. When you've handled a claim and a client or a prospect tells you, you know what, we'll be fine without the insurance, you can say to that client, you know, I hear that, but let me tell you a story about one of my clients. Because at the end of the day, it's that human connection that makes the difference. So that's where we live. That's where we need to be thinking about. So what do? I'm specializing in disability insurance for physicians. And about 7 years into my career, I realized that a lot of the physicians would do their training at the local hospital, but then they'd go away. So I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to try business owners as my focus. And I loved working with business owners because we could sell them life insurance, help them buy life insurance, and we could help them buy a lot of other products as well. And we changed our focus to disability insurance for business owners with other types of planning. But I didn't know where to get an education about other types of planning. But I was a member of this amazing organization that gathered once a year at a great big meeting where people would help you. The best in the business would help you. I could go to my fellow MDRT members, and I did. I went to the sessions about business planning. Mara Feldman, a past president, gave a great session on business planning. I went to the proceedings, which is this big blue bound book that was up in the office. And I'd look through the paper pages of the book looking for ideas and planning techniques. Now, it's unbelievably easy. All you got to do is go to the resource zone and use the search function. I typed in working with business owners into the resource zone, and 2,000 articles came up. You could filter it by a lot of different things too. It is unbelievable the resource that you guys all have that I didn't have coming up. So when it's time for a change, the resource zone is a great way to do it. So I shifted from doctors to business owners, and I love business owners. It's daytime work. Business owners work on a diary so that they are generally on time. When you're working with business owners, you are not competing with their vacation dollars. When you're working with business owners, oftentimes you're competing with much larger expenses than your expense. So you can bring great value, and the checkbook is freer. Business owners don't mind buying things that protect their business. So we loved working with business owners, and ultimately you end up doing the personal planning for the business owner anyway. So business owners became a great market for us. And one of the things that the business owners kept asking us was, do you sell health insurance? Now, health insurance is very specialized in the US. And I didn't know a lot about health insurance, but I found a specialist. And I borrowed the specialist's expertise, and I used it. And for a number of years, we sold health insurance through the specialist. But I kind of learned the business as we were doing it. And I got an opportunity a few years later to start my own employee benefits firm. How do you start an employee benefits firm from scratch? How did I do it? Let's hear it. What resource did I go to find out how to build an employee benefits company? You know the answer. MDRT. I heard a speaker at a meeting talk about her practice. And it was a husband and a wife. They gave an amazing presentation. I'm taking notes like crazy, just like you guys are doing. And after the session, I came up to them and I said, you just gave an amazing presentation. I have so many more questions. May I buy you a drink in the bar and ask you a few more questions? And they were so gracious. They met me in the bar later, and then they talked to me for 3 hours. It was an $80 investment in their bar tab that has returned millions of dollars. Invest in your practice. Sometimes it's simple. Yeah, go ahead. $80. Man, that was money well spent. So this is about 1996, 97, 98, 99. I am in Silicon Valley in California in the United States. We were working with .com startups. I don't know if .com is something you guys remember from many years ago. These were companies with a great idea and a cool name and a neat website that didn't have any profit. But there were tons of them, and they had lots of money to spend. It was a wonderful era to be in the insurance business in the late 90s in Silicon Valley. It was like money grew on trees. We loved it. And my income tracked the NASDAQ. Up, 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 2001, down, 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 down. So at that point, I got worried. What do we do? So I went to one of my MDRT buddies, a man named Andy Torelli. I said, Andy, can I buy you lunch? Andy said, sure. I said, Andy, what do I do? He said, well, who are you working with? I said, .com startups. He said, you need to be working with high-end, closely held service businesses. Huh. High-end, successful, closely held, small number of owners, service businesses. They care a lot about their employees. Okay. So in Silicon Valley, that was law firms, CPA firms, venture capital firms. In fact, anything with firm in the title was a good bet. So we rebuilt the business working with high-end, closely held service business. And that was really, really good for us. So that business was in 2004. Remember I said at the beginning of the presentation that it was time for a change as I started writing the speech. I'm the president of that company. That company feeds my family. 15 years later, things are going great for this company. I love this company. This company celebrated its 15th anniversary on April 1st of 2019. things are good. So the problem was that in the fall of 2018, I'm starting to think maybe it's time for a change. 7 years or so is kind of my cycle. All right. Well, we'll get back to that. So far we've talked about what products or what planning we want to do. We've talked a little bit about what professions we want to work with. Now we need to establish our expertise, brand our expertise, and figure out how to reach our market. And we're doing great, and we will be able to wrap this on time. So the first thing you can do to establish your expertise is to get credentials. I know it's hard. It's hard to be a student again. But it is the fastest way to get credibility. You know how long it takes to get 30 years of experience? 30 years. But if you can get your CLU or your CFP or any of the designations that you can get in your markets, they will accelerate your credibility. They will accelerate your experience. When you go to the doctor, if the doctor has MD after their name, you don't worry about how experienced they are. And in fact, the newer doctors are usually the ones that are more current. So if you can get credentialized, it will accelerate your success much faster. Another way to do it, to get credentialized or to get branded as an expert, is to teach others. Either teach your referral sources things, don't sell them, don't go and pitch them the benefits of a product. Talk to your referral sources about the planning itself. Teach them things that they don't know, but do it in a non-salesy way. Teach each other best practices. So you might say, well, gosh, Brad, you're not here selling insurance to all these people. How is teaching this group helping me in my practice? How is teaching all of you helping me sell more insurance? Do you have an idea? Social media is how. I post on Facebook and LinkedIn that I am down in Australia giving a session on best practices. Do my clients need to be here? No. But do my clients love hearing that I am here? Yes. Boy, Brad got invited to speak at a conference in Australia. Brad must be doing all right. If Brad's training other people how to do the job, he must be top in his field. So I get branded as an expert by helping everybody else. It raises the professionalism within the industry, but also it brands me as an expert. Writing for our industry magazines and trade journals can brand you as an expert. I've given 3 focus sessions on media relations. So you can go back, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I've published over 100 articles, and I did 15 years of television work as a consumer finance guest it's in the San Francisco Bay Area. Being on television doesn't help you with your credibility. Telling people that you've been on television helps you with your credibility. You have to be clear about that. People don't see you on television. I mean, they do if they watch TV at 9 in the morning, but most of our clients don't watch television when I was on. But when they see that you've been on, whether it's on your website or whether it's through social media, they think, wow, if the media trusts him, he must be trustworthy. So being in the media is an important thing to brand you as an expert. If you want more information about branding, where do you go? The Resource Zone. Don't take my word for it. There's lots of great branding experts on the Resource Zone. So find one of my sessions if you want more details about how, or find any of the other great sessions on there. There are lots of amazing resources on the Resource Zone to help you figure out to do each of these steps. Prospecting. Everybody great at prospecting? I'm not the greatest prospector. I am not an expert on everything, and I don't claim to be an expert on everything. So I'm not here to tell you about prospecting. I've been very fortunate. I've done a good job with everything else you've seen, and I haven't made an outbound phone call in 20 years. Clients call us, referred to us by their accountants, their lawyers, their financial planners if they're just buying insurance. We get referrals that comes to us, and then we help them buy insurance. I don't have to sell anything. So I don't advise this. It takes time to build a practice like this. So I would suggest that you learn about prospecting. I'm not telling you not to prospect, and we would frankly probably benefit from doing more prospecting. But in the meanwhile, if you need help with it, go onto the resource zone and look up prospecting. There's thousands of resources available for you for that. All right, so remember, Brad is in the employee benefits business. I am a health insurance expert, an employee benefits expert, and I have been with my own company for the last 15 years. And then in 2013, a really special thing happened. In 2013, I was asked to give a speech about what it's like to raise a disabled child. Were any of you in Philadelphia in 2013? My friends, thank you for being here. In 2013, I gave a speech about the most amazing young man and his incredible mother. My son was born with an intellectual disability and a number of physical challenges, and they said he would never walk, and they said he would never talk. Never mind going to work at Google or playing the ukulele or the drums. He's an enormous source of joy, and his mother, my wife, is the most amazing woman you will ever meet. She did not accept that Spence wouldn't be able to achieve everything that he has now achieved. She's an amazing lady. In 2013, I got to tell this story from the main platform. And frankly, the speech is called Labels, Lessons, and Love. And it's available for free on the resource zone if you're interested. I told the speech, and when it was over, people came up to me and they said, Brad, you are so passionate about working with families with special needs. Why don't you specialize in doing that? And I thought, you know what? I should specialize in that. I volunteer in the market. I volunteer with the families with special needs, probably 10, 15 hours a week. I love the volunteer work. I sit on the boards of a number of nonprofits that focus on special needs. I love the families. I coach the kids, coach the Little League team. I coach the soccer team. I stopped playing. No more playing soccer. So it's a source of great joy to me to be working in this market. So I had to figure out how to do it, though, how to build a business around it. So I reached out to my pal, Ryan Pinney. I don't know if you guys know Ryan. Ryan's a member just like we are, but he's really good at internet marketing. I mean, he doesn't do this, he does it for himself. He doesn't advise people on how to do it, but he's a friend of mine, and I know him from volunteering in PGA. So I reached out to Ryan, and I said, Ryan, how do I do this? And Ryan spent a ton of time with me on that. And Ryan doesn't drink, so it didn't cost me anything. So I built this unique website. But interestingly enough, we didn't get a lot of business out of it. And I thought to myself, maybe now is not the time. So I took the website down. And it wasn't until the fall of 2018 when I was writing the speech that I realized why it wasn't working. You guys remember what I talked about at the beginning about two disparate specialties? Two specialties that don't make sense together? What kind of problem did I have trying to be an employee benefits guy and a special needs financial planning guy at the same time? I had a sushi barbecue problem. And a sushi barbecue problem is a problem. People didn't believe that a guy that did corporate health insurance knew anything about working with families with special needs, even though we did, and we did at a great level of expertise and experience. So it's November of 2018, I'm writing this speech, I got a deadline to get it in by December, but I realized I don't like the ending of the speech, because the speech ended with me being an employee benefits specialist. And I have to come here and tell you to follow your dreams, to follow your passion, to find what drives you. And I realized that employee benefits wasn't driving me anymore. And yet, I'm in the middle of my busy season. We are working like dogs this time of year. So what do? The first thing you do is you gotta brand yourself as an expert. So I started writing articles about special needs planning. Do I expect my clients to read these articles? Not in the magazines that they're published in, because they were published in our magazines. They're published in our local trade journals. But they do see them on LinkedIn. So when I post something on LinkedIn, it's not just the 2,000 clients that we have as clients. There are, I mean, when I posted this, let's see if it's even on there. When this thing got done with being up there for a little while, there were 10,000 views. A lot more people saw this article than they ever would have seen it if I had cut it out of the magazine and mailed it to them. So social media can be a very, very powerful branding tool. Also, in November, I am literally dying. I am so busy. What did I tell you about credentialing? Folks, I can't ask you to do something that I wouldn't do myself. And I needed another credential. I couldn't get 20 years of additional special needs planning experience. I just don't have time. I'm 55 years old. But I can get credentialed, and that will give me instant credibility. There are only 400 chartered special needs consultants in the United States. And there are only a couple dozen of them in the state in which I live, and only 4 of them in the San Francisco Bay Area. Seemed to me this would be a good credential to have. Too bad I'm in the middle of my busy season, dying. And I've got 3 classes to take and 1,000 pages of reading for each class, and a 3-hour or 2-hour proctored final. I must have been out of my mind. But I had made a commitment to myself, and I had made a commitment to all of you. I don't know if you can read the date on that. That's the first day of January 2019. I couldn't come up here and ask you to do something I wasn't willing to do myself. So I got my Chartered Special Need Consultant designation so that I could do this planning and help my clients more because of the education that I have, and with greater credibility to give me lift in the market. Thank you. Believe this. If I can do it, you can do it. But it wasn't enough to just hang it on my wall. And this is what I love about social media. I would say this about social media. I'd say 2 things about social media. One, it is an incredible way to brand what you do professionally. The second thing I would say is, if you're looking for more time in your day, stop taking pictures of food and putting them on social media. Food is great. Maybe limit yourself to 1 food post a day, and that's it. Okay? When I posted this on here, I don't see if there's the date on there, but 7,000 views at the time. I had to submit this for MDRT, and about 12,000 views after that. Now, if I put it in my office at the end of the year, and that certificate is very proudly up on my wall, really not for my clients, but for me. But over 12,000 people saw the post. And that's a lot more people than come through my office in a given year. So again, I'm feeling very good about what we do. And we have made great efforts to brand it. So I'm bringing it home now. So now I am building a practice that I am passionate about. Oh, I forgot to tell you the most important part. Oh, this is great. You guys are basically the first group I'm telling this. I sold my employee benefits practice last month. Remember that amazing, profitable, great practice that I love? And I sold it because it was time for a change. Again, I wouldn't ask you to do something that I wasn't willing to do myself. Now, I'm not telling you to do this cavalierly. It may sound like I'm being casual about it. I'm not. We spent 6 or 7 months finding the right buyer for the company. When I gave this speech in Miami, I couldn't tell anybody yet because in June, the sale hadn't closed and I'd signed a non-disclosure to talk about it. So you guys get to hear the end of the speech that Miami didn't get to hear the end of the speech. I sold the employee benefits company, which now frees me up to focus on the career or profession or passion of my dreams, and that is working with families with special needs. If you can find a passion or something that you love so much that you'd be willing to do it for free, as I was doing anyway with the volunteering, that is everything. So you remember that Venn diagram from earlier. Your favorite profession, claims that make you credible, the other things that make you credible, whether it's being published or being credentialed, and then selling the products that you love to the people that you love. That is a very narrow focus, and that is where we live. And ladies and gentlemen, many years ago, I attended my first MDRT meeting, and I heard all these speakers talking about how much they loved their careers. I wanted to love my career too. And once I narrowed my focus and stopped trying to be everything to everybody, I found my niche. And I've been finding it ever since. So we've got a few minutes for questions. There are microphones that are in the middle of the room. Don't worry if you don't speak English. You can ask your question on the microphones. Our wonderful translators are backstage. They will translate your question, and then I will be able to answer it. But we ask that you go to the microphones in the middle of the room. Feel free. We'll take a second for that to all get sorted out. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. All the way up there. Yes, sorry about that.
Hello.
Hello.
Excuse me.
Please just, why don't you state your name? And what? Yeah, state your name, what city you're from, and then let's try to keep it to a single one-part question.
Okay. Hello, I'm Sarah from Auckland, New Zealand. My question is, what about divorce as a specialisation?
Divorce, you said?
Yeah.
That's a very powerful area to specialize in. You heard Regina talking about it from the main platform, that's a specialization that she's adopted. Anything you can do where you've got special insights, I'm not asking your voice, but anything that you've got some special identification with will give you credibility. So for me as the father of a disabled child, I have credibility in working with that market, because people know I understand what they're going through. Same thing with divorce.
Yeah.
I think divorce is a great market for anyone that wants to be in that market. And
Thank you.
Specialize. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, sir. Yes? Is that Lydia?
Yes.
I'm looking right into the lights.
Hi, I'm Lydia. I'm from Indonesia. And there's a question from me is about the demonstrated expertise that you're talking about. So I'm gonna ask about, because you say it's kind of like a branding that what makes you different. So I'm looking at service here. So what do you think, what kind of services can actually make you different? Because you see all of these MDRT agents are focusing on services. So which makes each and every one of them actually focus on servicing. So which kind of services that you think can be a good new branding? Is there any ideas from you? Thank you.
So Lydia, hang on for a second, because I'm not sure I fully understand the question. Are you asking
Yes.
What service that you provide to your clients?
Mm-hmm.
What would be a good one to brand? Is that
Yeah.
what you're asking? Well, I think I would, and if I answer this in a way that's suggesting that I don't understand your question, then maybe try it again. But if I understand what you're asking, it becomes a matter of what's brandable for you. So this is what we talked about. Just look at the diagram behind me. If you love working with disability insurance, but don't love working with life insurance, just work with disability insurance. If you love working, as Sarah was saying, if you're passionate about working with people that are divorced, make that your focus. If you're passionate about special needs, make that your focus. If you're passionate about employee benefits or corporate work, make that your passion. If you can narrow your focus to something that you really, really love and have the courage to let go of trying to do all the other things, just do the things that you love, you'll end up building a practice that you love.
I mean, if how to differentiate your services with other people, how to make yourself stand out in terms of services?
Okay, so that's a good question. So how do you make yourself stand out? Well, when you see that I've written over 100 articles for our local magazines, our industry magazines, does that impress you? Does that make you think if he's teaching other people how to do it, that makes him credible? So publishing in our magazines, I think, is a great idea. And that's, so it helps everyone. You have to be sharing advice that's helpful, but it also brands you as an expert. So media relations is very, very important. And I think if I had to say two things, credentials, learn how to do more. And you've all heard the expression, you learn more, you earn more. Learn how to do more, get credentialed. It will brand you as an expert and teach you a lot. And then at the same time, write articles, share your best practices with your colleagues. And it will make our industry more professional, and it will brand you as an expert. Thanks, Lee.
Thank you.
So we've got a question up here. Yes, sir. I see you taking notes, but are you ready to ask a question?
Xin chào, Brett. Cảm ơn ông vì bài chia sẻ rất là tuyệt vời. Tôi tên là Nam và tôi đến từ Việt Nam. Câu hỏi của tôi là ông có thể kể một vài cái chuyên môn phổ biến mà ông biết.
My name is Nam.
Và ông có thể kể một cái câu chuyện nào đó mà thực sự ấn tượng về cái cách một cái ai đó mà họ xây dựng cái thị trường ngách của họ được.
My name is Nam. I come from Vietnam. My question for you is, can you tell us a specific example about someone who is successful in building his own niche market?
Building his what?
Own niche market.
Niche. Can I give you an example of someone who's successful in building his own niche market?
Yes. Yes.
I did it 4 times. There's a lot. I'll tell you what. Rather than being glib, there are lots of successful people in building a niche. The takeaway that I want you to take is that it's not enough to build a niche. You need to build the right niche for you. And the right niche for you may be different than for me or for Godfrey or for anyone else. So what I would suggest that you do is you go to the resource zone with MDRT and just type in niche marketing. Or if you want to find out about business planning, type in about business planning. Anything that is doable has been done by an MDRT member, and it's probably on the resource zone. So use the resource zone as your means for finding that out. So I don't know if the translator, if you're wearing your headphones and if you're hearing my response from the translator.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. If you have a question, please come down to the mic. We've got another question up here. One last question.
Okay. It's the last question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brett. My name is Aldo from Indonesia. I just love your session just now, and you gave me a lot of trouble now in my head.
Good.
Thank
you. That's what we meant to do.
I know. I started joining the industry in 2012, but I'm not being serious until I was in 2016 doing insurance because me myself just like you got an accident, got admitted to the hospital,
Wow.
and using the business. So that made me start this business more seriously, and actually this nowadays is my main business. But I already started my business before in lighting specialist. So now I have two expertise.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in that you sold your company benefits product. Now I don't have the courage to do that, but I mean, I'm in your position before. Now that I have to expertise and it's already branded.
Okay.
So what do you think about it? Thank you.
That's a good question, and it's going to give me an opportunity to not be quite so funny about just selling our business, because it was not something that we did lightly, and the details of the sale are going to keep me involved in that business for a few years. The decision to do it was twofold. One, compliance has gotten very complicated in my industry. I think that's probably something that we would all agree on. But it was getting very complicated in the health insurance industry. And on top of that, there were technology demands that were being placed on us. People wanted us not only to buy software for them to run their employee benefits, they wanted us to service the software. So we became a software service organization and a compliance organization, in addition to being a health insurance organization. And in California, we couldn't charge for the things that we were having to do. So the decision to sell wasn't just that it was time to try something new. It was we needed to be in a bigger organization to survive. So it wasn't all motivated by the other things. So we just knew that it was time to sell because of those things. So we merged in with a larger company, and we're thrilled about having done it. But it's freeing me up now to focus on the other thing. So the courage to do it, the courage to do it was, if we stayed doing what we were doing, if the handwriting was on the wall, we were going to struggle. But if we merged with a bigger, we heeded the signs. I was spending too much time doing things I didn't love. So we're going to think, I hope that answers your question. I want to thank everybody for being here. We need to wrap it up. If you want to grab a picture, thank you so much. If you want to grab a picture, let's do it out in the hall, because the next speaker needs to come in and get wired up and get ready. So I'm going to be out in the foyer upstairs, up there, and let's grab a picture up there if you're interested. So thank you very much.
Okay, I want to thank Graham again. Applause. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the section. Thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of the meeting. Thank you.